Good morning. Thank you, everyone, for being here. This is a special day, and I think it's appropriate that we're in the Legacy Room. I want to thank our guests from across Houston, certainly my colleagues, my directors. It means so much to not only me, but I'm standing here representing the city of Houston, 2.3 million plus and growing. Before we get to the proposals that we will present today, I think it'd be reasonable to go and share how we got to this point. A little over 3 years ago, I got a call from Houstonians, a diverse group of concerned citizens who requested me to come back to Houston and run for mayor. My first call I got from Steve, I said, no, I like what I'm doing. I'm making a difference in Austin. Maybe at one time, but not now. They called back, a diverse group of citizens. Use your experience and relationships and having been on the Senate Finance for years, chairing criminal justice, to come back because we're concerned about public safety, the infrastructure, quality of life issues, the city's finances. They wouldn't say no, they wouldn't accept no. So I said, okay, you talk to your friends, I'll talk to my friends. We made the decision, had an interesting campaign, and I don't regret one day the decision I made. And that's what brings us here today. I am so proud of the accomplishments that we've reached in approximately 2.5 years. Could not have done it alone with my colleagues, the directors, Houstonians. Public safety, we've hired 800 additional cadets. HPD now is at 5,400 officers, the highest in history. The fire, we've hired 600 firemen. We were dangerously low of EMS and firefighters. Quality of life issues is a focus, and we're going to discuss that today, because certainly solid waste, parks, and other issues, such as homeless, and I will challenge or invite all of you to walk across the street to Tranquility Park that 3 months ago was an encampment. It's going to be restored to its original, honoring our space travelers. By the old place, the overhang, you couldn't walk down the sidewalk. Couldn't use a hobby center and go toward the aquarium. It's exciting to see what we've accomplished in 2.5 years, and we're really just getting started, and realize it'll take 8 years to finish our mission. But we're not doing this alone. It's the collaboration, again, of the people that stand behind me, the faith community, the partnership, Houston Partnership, made a strong endorsement. So this is really not my proposal today. It's the collaboration of people standing behind me and people across Houston. I want to thank Houstonians for the opportunity to stand here today and contribute to a major announcement. Thank you, Houstonians, as I cross this city, for your kind words, your encouragement. I can sense the improvement of the city's morale. It's just, you notice it when you're out in public, which I do often. And we're not through. We're just getting started. Let me quickly mention what the budget highlights in terms of that original request. Come back, infrastructure, public safety, quality of life issues. We're listening to the public. This new budget will put an additional $31 million in the drainage dedicated fund. We listen to the Northeast residents. We listen. The new budget will have an additional 5 police cadet classes, 11 fire cadet classes. The overtime in this budget reflects the demands on the department. We're in a different times than we were just a few short years ago. Pop-up protests are very frequent. Large protests, like No King. We must have overtime for our fire and police. The police and fire morale has never been higher. The benefit package for fire and police. We're filling our cadet classes, and they're not leaving to go to other jurisdictions. Now, let me digress for a second. When I got elected, no one told me about the Jones-Watson lawsuit, that no one had resolved that. We sat down with them. Relationships matter. I've known Bob Jones for years. And they were so supportive of the city's future that they let us transition into this settlement. The firefighters dispute. Morale at all-time high. The first cadet class that I spoke to, the month I was sworn in, had 30 cadets in it. You talk to them, they'll say, we're just getting certified in Houston, then we're going to Pearland or Tomball, you name it, Austin. So the morale of the public safety first responders are at an all-time high. Infrastructure, it's kind of bumping up against public safety as a top priority. Tough decisions, had to make a change at the director's position. Randy's been outstanding. His team's outstanding. A goal of 1,000 paved roads under the current budget. We're at 750 miles. People are complaining about the construction and improvement of the streets creating congestion. I'm sorry, but that goes with the improvements. $500 million for drainage and roads, all-time high. So the new budget continues that process. And there are so many needs that I could list today. BARC, it hadn't been announced yet, members, and I'm not keeping it from you. It's just, it's a process. We want to do an adoption center on Memorial in the old Public Works building for BARC, because its current location, people do not drive by with their family on a beautiful day. BARC's drawn up the plans for an adoption center right across from Fondy Center. It will be magnificent for our four-legged friends. So many other things I could point to. But how are we going to pay for it? That's the challenge. Those people that asked me to run said, Whitmire, we know you won't kick the can down the road. You've got a record of accomplishment in the legislature. Penal code reform, second chance for offenders, drug and alcohol treatment. They'd been abused and ignored for years, and it was just a revolving door. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not kicking the can down in my administration. Speaking to the infrastructure, public safety, and now you have to pay for it. I've mentioned many times I have worked with 9 mayors covering 50 years. Louis Welch in the early 70s, right through Mayor Turner. I'm not going to accuse all of them because the environment was different. The public was different. But we've never really addressed the systemic, structural, financial, broken system of running the city of Houston. I've said many times from my experience in government, if you don't identify and admit you have a problem, you'll never fix it. So Bob Lanier, one of the great mayors, got $500 million from Metro for police overtime. He still talked about his public safety initiative. Other mayors have laid off large numbers. Others have sold property. Others have used one-time federal funding. So when I got here, the first year was one of discovery. You know, people would ask me on the campaign trail, what do you think about city's finance? I said, well, I really think you're going to have to get there to know the true picture, because it had really, really not ever been discussed. It's not necessarily the first thing people ask you about. They're concerned about their safety and infrastructure, quality of life. So the second year, being the budget that we're currently operating under, we balanced the budget through efficiencies, collaboration. The Ernst & Young report's probably the smartest thing I've done up to this point. It gave us a roadmap of how to transform city government. We actually reduced the size of the City of Houston services and administration and employment by 2%. 1,056 people took our incentive package. Good city employees. They'd served their time. Quite frankly, I joke with a couple of them, they'd already retired. They just hadn't officially announced it. They'll go unnamed. But we did that under the current budget. Thank you to the collaboration with our county commissioners who made a big difference and are still cooperating and collaborating in the operation of parks and debris pickup and streets, and of course, the assistance of the state of Texas. Let me just emphasize, as I've mentioned this subject, we're not raising property taxes. It's not an option at this point due to the circumstances in our country concerning affordability, the cost of a home. So property taxes are not even in my thoughts. Once we prove ourselves, efficiency, and that government is a system at the local level you can trust. And yes, I will say, eliminating conflicts and corruption. Once we can look people straight in the eye and say, we've done everything we can. And quite frankly, that's part of this conversation. And I want to thank the council, not only the senior members that have been here 4 years longer than me, and our new members that came in with me. They've had really smart discussion. They've advised me about the move we're making. So it's really a collaborative effort as we stand before you today. But the state of Texas, while we disagree with some of their policies strongly, we have been able to convince them, as has Houston, how Houston goes is how the state of Texas will go. They use our port to ship the Lubbock cotton growers' product. They call me as a Houston senator from around the state to get their constituents admitted into MD Anderson. I could go on and on. We have worked and convinced Austin that they need to collaborate with the city of Houston. We have more work to do. But during Barrow, county raised property taxes. That's their decision. I had a commitment that we wouldn't raise property taxes, even at the urging of some of my colleagues. I went to Austin, met with the governor. We put our differences aside, and we got enough money to pick up the debris from Barrow without property tax increase. Last session, best session in history, $100 million for a lift station to serve that Eastside water plant, which is in need of repair, to distribute our water. Parks. Let me throw in the other partner we got, the federal government. We got $314 million in recovery funding to fund I couldn't believe the first storm. As mayor, the fire chief walks in and says, we can't use station, and he listed it because the power's out. Can't get the doors up. I said, no, you're pulling my leg. No. There's not a generator there? No. So Angela Blanchard, our resilient officer, and the team behind me got busy. Of the $314 million recovery money, $100 million for strategic locations of fire and police, our cooling centers, that the hub that everyone talked about in Kashmir. That's something to celebrate, but it didn't have backup power. So anyway, you can see where we're going. The state's our partners. We need their resources. We need to partner with Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, and convince Austin that we need an urban initiative. We've done enough for rural Texas historically. They got the best farm-to-market road in the nation. We help them with brush control. We help them with their water. So let's focus where the people live, the diverse communities of our great cities. Now, how are we going to pay for it? We're going to look at reality. We learned some proposals from other cities, some from my colleagues. We're going to put solid waste into public works and make it a utility. Been done in all the major cities. We'll receive $116 million in the general fund, making that transaction. We will also go forward with a $5 administration fee. Now let me explain that, because it was easy reporting to call it a garbage fee. Folks, in my world, a garbage fee is not $5. When it gets to a level, I'll be the first to join my colleagues and say we have a garbage fee. But let me explain how we talk about it in my office. First of all, state law says you cannot provide a utility, which solid waste is becoming, without a charge. It could have been $2. But we went the very minimum of $5. It'll create a $24 million revenue the first year. We'll keep it at $5 the next 2 years. And then council and future budgets will determine where we go from there. Because we're not going to do what I would call a genuine garbage fee until we improve services. And that's the beauty of putting solid waste into public works. Now, this was the case up until the mid-90s. Solid waste belongs in public works. It ended in the mid-90s, and people around here longer than me say it started going downhill after that. See, we didn't get in this challenge overnight. It's been coming for years. Many years. But solid waste became the stepchild in the mid-90s. We'll collaborate with Public Works. It'll create a funding mechanism. Services will get better because Public Works has a track record. And our current director, Hassan, at Solid Waste is an outstanding public servant, and he will be right there. He is just about caught up. Just about caught up. We gave him private contractors for heavy trash. Of course, he's such an upbeat person. He's going to be at the front of the line. So it'll be a $5 administration fee. Why $5? Well, the study that we did of solid waste, which will be released, said that's the cost to the home, to the city to provide the service to each homeowner. Not just going out there and picking up the trash and recycling, heavy trash. There's a $6 cost when you get back to headquarters. So I'm not joking or not being direct. It's an administration fee by that definition. But I also understand that gets a lot of attention, and it should. Pasadena charges $34 for garbage pickup. League City, $22. Sugarland, $24. And Pearland, $23. And most of our friends that live in the unincorporated part of Harris County are paying as high as $40 to a water district. So we're doing a fine job of protecting Houston residents, and they will not pay this administration fee unless they're getting the service. So we still have a lot of work to do. But what a giant forward to recognize that there's a better way to do this, and all the other cities do this, major cities. All of them. Dallas, water utility. Austin, power and water. San Antonio, gas and water. So we're actually borrowing a model, and And my only question is, why didn't the city of Houston do this a long time ago? I mean, it's just a practical solution that's working in all of our other cities. Then the next thing we're going to have to do is the water utility will pay the city of Houston for a right-of-way fee. Okay? That's an interesting concept. I know it takes a little work to understand, and we're going to have a great hearing with Melissa, the financial director, Randy, all the directors, before finance tomorrow afternoon. And no one better to chair that than Councilmember Alcorn. Vast experience in city finances. But other cities do it. We're charging a $5% of the gross revenue of water will be used. 95% will stay right there in the water fund to ensure that we got proper distribution and resources from our water fund. Dallas charges 20% of its gross water system, 14% from San Antonio, Austin, 12% of the gross of their energy company, and 8% of water. So really, we've been fooling ourselves for a long time. There is a tremendous source of revenue that other cities are using, and for whatever reason, City of Houston didn't. That gains you $104 million. So we're just about taking care of that shortfall, and the real exciting thing is it goes forward. Everything I'm talking about is just the beginning. It's going to get better in future years. It's a financial security for the city of Houston. It's the health of the city's finances. And getting back to that $5 administration fee, it's conceivable, if we're smart, we may never have to raise it. We have 5 transfer stations. Only 2 of them are working, and they're being run by the private sector. If we get our 5 transfer stations and they're running like they should, there's a discussion that we could use that as a revenue stream and offset any need for a higher administration fee, ultimately a garbage fee. So folks, a lot of work went into this. It's tough. Finance department, last week, they went home at 4 o'clock in the morning. It's unbelievable. So we'll have that hearing tomorrow afternoon. It will not endanger any projects that the water fund is currently operating or planning. We're building a $4 billion East Side water plant with the help of the state water board. Remember when I warned people about we don't want to lose our source at the state? $4 billion loan, not strike that, not a total amount. The total cost would be $4 billion. We're also getting money from the federal government. So in the proposed budget, it addresses public safety, infrastructure, quality of life, certainly including solid waste, good service, better services. We got to do something about illegal dumping. That'll constantly continue to be a challenge. HPD's here this morning. They're beginning to prosecute people. That's going to hopefully be a step of improvement. We're working with the DA. Solid waste, almost caught up, but it'll be a constant. We've got to educate Houstonians that, one, you only put items that you would expect the city to pick up with heavy trash. You can't evict somebody and put the entire household belongings and furniture on the curb. So we have an education of I'm not going to steal TxDOT's Don't Mess with Texas. They probably got that copyright in them, certain they do. But we need a Don't Mess with Houston initiative. But these financial steps are significant. I don't mind questions and answers of why you did it this way, the revenue stream that it's going to create, the The water fund has $1.2 billion in it. So we're not raising fees or taxes. We're using taxpayers' money that have been in an account that most people probably don't discuss. And we have needs, but that fund's continuing to grow and grow. So we're not jeopardizing it. And I'm just darn proud to stand before you with some really dedicated public servants. And we're ready to go to work. If there's specific questions about the budget, Melissa's here, Randy runs Public Works. Any of the directors that you want to focus on, Councilmember Alcorn and I are working to try to improve our parks, get some matching funds. Homeless, we're going to open Emancipation on May 27th. It's going to be a game changer. I want to quit getting food, not bombs, from feeding the homeless across the street at the library. Break down our encampments, provide a holistic approach for the homeless, remove them from the neighborhoods. So I could stand up here and talk, folks, as you can tell, because I'm excited. We're headed on the right path. And we'll have critics. Sure, that's part of my job. I would ask them what's their plan. See, I didn't run for this job, or wasn't asked to run for it because I needed a political career. I'd had a good one, nor because I was term limited. I'm here to fix Houston with my colleagues and these directors. Some have come out of retirement to work. Some have left better paying jobs to work. So, as I often say, let's go to work. This morning I'm going to say, let's keep on working.